And then we'll blend a little more. A lot of this is going to be back and forth, adding, subtracting, blending, sharpening. It's a back and forth process. You'll notice I keep making a lot of different changes, and that's just because I'm trying to get it looking right. I'm doing this from imagination, so that makes it a little bit harder to be certain about how you're going to leave everything. Sometimes it's easier to create new layers for things like lightening and darkening. So for instance, I could lighten a whole bunch of this, like so, and then change the composite method to screen. That'll make sure that only white shows up and any black disappears. That way if I paint with black, I can conceal some of that white there that I put in. You can also turn down the layer opacity to get a more subtle blend. So you can see that's just brightening it up a little bit. Let's name this light, or lighten. We'll create a new layer, we'll call it darken. That'll be a multiply composite method. That's the opposite of screen. So if we paint with a dark color, like a dark gray, we can balance out the dark a little more. And then painting with white on a multiply layer, we'll erase that dark color that you put down. So it's okay if you overpaint, because you can go through and just erase what you don't need. And you can of course blend on those layers. When you're done doing that, go ahead and drop all again. Just smoothed out the arm a little bit there. I think that looks better. Let's go ahead and add some hair to this person here. We'll create a new layer and we'll call it hair. And let's use a number 7 gray value. We'll select the chalk. You want to use these paper settings that I have here. Let's set the composite method from default to multiply. That way we'll be able to see what we're doing a little bit better there. Let's select a lighter value like this number 2. Put some highlight on the highlight side. We'll go ahead and use the diffuse blur to blend that a little bit. Very lightly. Until it looks like hair. Short hair. Short curly hair. And if you want, you can continue adding hair. If you didn't do enough, you can lower the hairline if you want. And of course you want to blend that again. Let's go ahead and drop all again. Let's select white. Use that same chalk brush to add a highlight to the hair. Blend that with diffuse blur. And we'll zoom out a little bit and see how we're looking. Let's go ahead and add a skin color here. This tint has a habit of over darkening, so you can just reduce the opacity a little bit until you find a blend that you like a little bit better. Let's create another layer. Let's call this red tint. This will be some reddish hues that we'll put in. Now, once we've already gone ahead and kind of filled in this basic shape, we can leverage that by getting a selection from that. So we'll select the tint layer. We'll choose select layer content. See how we get that nice selection around the whole thing? We can use that to make sure that we don't paint outside of that again. So we'll go back to the red tint layer. Let's choose a show hide marquee to hide that selection while still keeping it active. We'll make sure the red tint layer is set to multiply. We'll pick a reddish color. And we'll use the airbrush. So there's usually red around the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. The cheeks sometimes, because there's all your blood vessels underneath the skin. So just here and there, I'm just adding a little bit of red flavor. Let's try some other colors. Let's choose like a more peachy orange color and put in a little bit of that. We don't want the skin to be just one flat color. We want it to have some variance to it. Let's add another layer. Let's call this blue tint. Same thing. It'll be a multiply composite method. We can select a blue hue, and we can put some blue tint on this body. Let's zoom out so we can see the whole thing. So we'll do a pretty big overall blue cast on one side. If you overdo it, you can always turn down the layer opacity for that layer to where it has just a little hint of blue. Let's return to the canvas layer. Let's create a new layer. Let's call it BG color. That's short for background color. We'll want that to be a multiply composite method. We'll want to invert our selection, so we'll go to select, invert. That turns the selection inside out, so it's selecting the background now. And we could put in a background color, let's say a dark blue. We'll choose fill. See if we like that color. If not, we can try something else. I think something like that looks good. So now we have an environment color. Let's create a new layer. Let's call it reflection. And we'll go to select, invert selection to turn it right side out again. And then here and there we'll put in some reflections on the skin that are reflecting the color from the background. Let's add a layer. Let's call this highlight. And we'll sample this brown color from the skin, make it a little bit lighter. And we'll bring back some of our highlights.